So good morning again. And for anybody who joined us on Zoom after the Roses and Thorns, I welcome you. My name is Reverend Angela Denton. And today we are going to revisit our series based on the book, The Eye of the Storm, written by Reverend Dr. Gary Simmons. And I'd like to start us off by looking at some pictures. Yes, Matt has rubbed off on me. So I'm going to show you four. We're going to leave this here right now until I tell you what I'm looking for. So there's going to be four, two on this slide, two on the next. And if you could just choose one of the images by number as to if you are looking to get away to a peaceful place, which one would resonate with you as the most peaceful place for you to let go and relax? So here we go. We have picture, wait, go back. We have 1 and 2, and then this, by the way, back, a minister friend of mine, actually, this is from Colombia, so it's a real one. So if we can go to the next two, these are real ones too, but anyway, going back to 3 and 4. All right, so on Zoom, if you can put in the chat box your number 1 peaceful place, please do that. And if anybody would like to share their number here, what would it be? 2, 1, 1, 2, 2. Anybody on Zoom? One, most of them, a couple said 2. So nobody picked 3 or 4? Come on, really? All right, so keep it in mind as I read this tale about a king. Long ago, there lived a king who asked the artist in his kingdom to paint the best picture of peace. The king announced a handsome reward for the best painting. The royal court received many paintings, and the king selected just 2 to choose from after he whittled them down. The first painting was a picture of a calm lake. In its waters was the reflection of serene mountains and clear blue skies. It was the perfect picture of peace. The other paintings, too, had mountains, but they were rugged, and the sky above them was dark with black clouds. And on the other side of the mountain was a roaring waterfall. The picture portrayed anything but peace. But something in the picture caught the king's attention. A bird's nest hung delicately on a bush behind the waterfall. A bird and her little ones resided in the midst of a raging waterfall. The king announced that this painting would be the winner. And all of the people of the king's court wondered, how can dark clouds and rugged mountains even remotely resemble peace? And the king replied, peace does not refer to a place where there is no noise, no trouble, or hard work. Peace means being in the midst of all of those things and being calm and centered from within. And in the words of Buddha, peace comes from within. Do not seek it without. This is the very message of our daily word reading today that Donna shared with us this morning. And so I want to just take an excerpt of that supports what the king spoke to his royal court, what the Buddha said, what the master teacher Jesus said when he commanded the stormy seas in Mark to be still. It was not just a literal interpretation, but it is to refer metaphorically about the stormy seas in our lives, those things that surround us, our fears or worries. And so just to refocus on an excerpt from the Daily Word, we see here, centered in my divinity, I am a peaceful presence. Peace flows from that place in my consciousness where I synchronize my humanity with my divinity. My divinity fills my awareness. The principle of peace, like all principles, is innate and always available. I need not find a quiet corner, picture 1 or 2. Whenever I choose, anywhere is a peaceful sanctuary. Wherever I go, whatever I am doing, I can choose to be a peaceful presence. That is not an easy task, is it? You have situations where you're in the midst of a literal hurricane and your house is being destroyed, right? Or you're in a conflictual situation and there's discord within your relationship. So yes, it is hard when our outside situation is anything less than perfect, but it is also next to impossible or impossible when we are attached to being right, prove a point. It is my way or the highway, so to speak. Needing to be in control. Anybody try that one? Yeah. Kind of creates a little bit more discord. Being perfect. That inability to be vulnerable, to let anybody know. What if they find out who I really am? Which doesn't change, but we believe this stuff, right? Having to be the best, the winner. And when we are engaging in blaming, looking for who or what to blame for our suffering. Yes, now I'm not saying when a hurricane hits physically, that there is not sadness and grief and heartache. But yes, nevertheless, I am guided from the light within. Nevertheless, I can be that bird and nest anywhere and center myself and be led through the stormy sea that I am experiencing in my life. And when we are filled with grievances, then we look to criticize. All of these things are telltale signs that we are in the midst of the 4 winds of conflict, which I spoke about in November. Now, in November, I introduced the 4 winds: separation, misperception, competition, and defensiveness. And we took a deeper dive into the winds of separation and misperception. And I said at a later date, which is today, we're going to look at competition and defensiveness. And for those of you who were not present, I'm just going to do a brief review of separation and misperception. So separation is that belief that I am not connected, that I am alone, energetically and physically, that where I end, and where you end, you end. It is having the false belief that I am sometimes connected to Source, by whatever name you call it, and other times when I'm oming, I'm connected. You can never not be connected. It's just your awareness of it, your state of mind. And we can never be disconnected from one another. We believe that our actions, when we're in that state, the illusionary state of separation, we think, hey, what I am thinking, what I am believing, my behaviors, all that has no impact on anybody else. We are energetic beings, and it does. Have you ever felt the presence of someone who was not in a wonderful mood, who did not have to say a word and you felt the vibe? Has that ever happened? Yeah. I'm taking the master course on that one, right? I won't get into stories. And so one of my sons is learning that with another family member. So I'm trying to coach him a bit on that one, right? And it also is that belief that there's not enough. And in this place, we believe that other people and things are the cause of our separation, of our suffering. And then we begin to think from that against state. This disease is against me. This person is against me. And that is our enemy list that I spoke about several weeks ago. So then we move to misperception. Misperception is I am perceiving from my personality self, from that fountain of beliefs that are so deeply ingrained within me, beliefs that I have created about people and things and places and how the world operates, about just about anything in my life. And when I am coming from my personality self, I am not open to see things other than my own point of view, right? And then what we do is we gather evidence to support that belief, right? All women, you can't trust women. You had a couple of relationships and it's like, can't trust any women. And so we look for that evidence. Oh, that person didn't smile at me the right way. Or this person didn't give me the time of day, whatever. We go on and on and on and on about it. And again, it's that my way or the highway. So if you look here, what do you see in the image? Anybody want to raise their hand? Donna? Yeah, of the two people, right? It's just a little simple lesson that you can see more than one thing. Who thought that, right? It's not just what I see. But right, when we're energized about something, that is all that we can really see or believe. So now we're going to move into competition. Anybody competitive here? There's nothing, there's some fun competition. Another guilty pleasure of mine is watching Guys Game Night on the Food Network. Anybody know that show? Well, it's not Guys Grocery Games. He gathers like three groups of two, and they play these games, and they're playing for a charity. And that is like a fun, spirited thing. People are usually pretty much all good sports, right? So I'm not talking about that type of competition. I'm talking about when it starts to infiltrate our life and in our relationships in ways that are not honoring. So in just looking at competition, it means I am trying to get something or to be more successful than you, or you, or you, or you, or you. And that is part of our societal conditioning. Competition. There's not enough. There's only a certain amount. Only a certain amount of people can get the job. There's only 2 openings. We only take a certain amount of people who get a certain GPA into the college, right? We can go on and on and on. It starts in kindergarten. I want to be first in line. And then they start tugging, right? Okay, on and on and on. So it's very much modeled, and it comes from the consciousness of lack. There's not enough. It also comes from from our domestication, so to speak. When we are born, we know who we are, right? We strut ourselves, we take our clothes off, and then we're told, don't do that. Or who do you think you are, right? So then we get that slow conditioning, and then we believe, oh, maybe I'm not worthy. And then some insecurity sets in because our self-esteem, we start to learn, is based on performance. Being the best, being the winner, being the one who shines above the rest. Look at me, I'm important. Now you say I might be a little exaggerating, but it is so insidious in our culture. And it also comes very early on when we were looking to meet our needs, right? Lots of times we were competing for our parents' attention for whatever reason. So sometimes needs gets a really bad rap. It's like needy, nobody wants to be needy. No, it's not that. We all universally have basic human needs that are healthy. And these are common ones. Well-being, physical, mental, and emotional well-being, which includes rest, nutrition, understanding, which includes empathy, play, rest, safety and security, community, belonging, purpose, connection, love, compassion, creative self-expression. And so this wasn't really modeled for us, and this is not about a blame game. It just is. And now it's like, all right, so here we are needing to learn how to meet our needs because we're taught that we have to compete with them out there, that there wasn't enough. Maybe I needed to be the loud one in the family to get mom or dad's or my caregiver's attention. And then we learn these mechanisms to get that attention. Maybe I learned to pout or to be loud or to make a scene, so on and so on and so on. And those are not healthy ways. And so when competition infiltrates, where we're competing in relationships for our needs, our values, our goals, it creates discord, disharmony. And in the words of Gary Simmons, the danger of competition in relationships is that someone must eventually lose. The loser becomes diminished, angry, and resentful. And the winner loses as well because the reward for being right is the reinforcement of one's inferiority. Winning reinforces inferiority because needing to be right is a behavior that masks or protects one's sense of insecurity and inadequacy. This is unfortunate because the purpose of relationship is to be a source of support and empowerment. So we need to begin to say, how might I meet my own needs? So when we see competition rising in our behavior or in our relationships, how can we dissolve its power over us? And so here are some healthy things. First of all, is just acknowledge its presence. In this moment, I'm really needing to be the best, to be noticed, or whatever way it shows up. And then we identify our feelings that are attached to it. Maybe perhaps I'm feeling insecure if I'm not, if I'm not meeting my need of rest, or maybe I'm living in a loud, volatile household. I might feel insecure, anxious, fearful, uneasy. And then we can look to our beliefs that we've learned growing up based on this competition, not knowing how to meet our needs, not having that belief that I must perform to be worthy. And then we start to take on very deeply sometimes. I don't measure up. I don't measure up. I'm not enough. I'm unlovable. I am unworthy. I am a burden, on and on. And then in that moment, what is the unmet need? What is my unmet need? Is it, do I need to take a nap? Do I need to give myself compassion? Do I need to take a walk? Do I need to, yes, I've been caring for all these people, and I'm really needing to create something, to have my own life, to share my gifts with the world. Yes, I love these people, but what is mine to do? And so then we ask, how can I claim wholeness? Meaning, instead of defending or competing or blaming or criticizing, what will I choose to embody in this moment? And then, how do I meet that need for myself? Right? We all would love the people around us to be kind and loving and to be helpful, but it doesn't always work out that way. And so then we move on to the wind of defensiveness. And this is the act of protecting oneself from a perceived threat. Now, I want to be clear here. When I'm talking about the threat, I'm not talking about a physical threat of abuse or somebody physically harming you. You need to remove yourself, do what you need to do to protect yourself. I am talking about the threats of blame, criticism, and when somebody has an opposing view than we do. I mean, just look at our political system. You know, somebody has a disagreement, you would think what they were saying to one another, the way they get so violent with their speech and even their behavior. So when we are feeling blamed or criticized, it doesn't feel good, does it, energetically? Right? We can feel our bodies tensing up. And so what I would like to share here is a video. One of my favorite authors when I was studying for family therapy was Dr. Gottman, and his name is John and his wife is Julie. So he's going to start us off with talking a little bit about defensiveness and competition, and then she's going to speak about how do we respond when we are receiving criticism or blame.
Let's look at the third predictor of divorce is defensiveness in arguments. Take a look.
What do you mean I'm always watching TV? I'm working. Can I watch the news? You're always watching TV and the kids.
No, the TV's usually off.
I can't watch a little bit of TV.
Yeah.
So Dr. Gottman, defensiveness, why is that so toxic?
Well, the reason it's so toxic is that people are not taking responsibility for a part of the problem. And when the masters of relationships, instead of being defensive, take responsibility and say, well, so what's your point? I mean, it makes some sense what you're saying. Tell me more. And they take responsibility for even a small part of the problem, then, you know, you're kicking around the problem together. It's like you're playing soccer and kicking a ball around together. You're a team working on this joint problem. So defensiveness gets in the way of that.
Right. And the fourth one.
When we studied how couples brought up problems, you know, on videotape, these 3,000 couples, what we saw was that they followed basically 3 rules, 3 typical behaviors for couples who made it work, who made lasting relationships. Here's what they did. Step 1, they always started with I. And it was usually I'm upset, or I'm worried, or I'm angry. So it was I plus some kind of feeling. And, you know, if they didn't know from feelings, what feeling is what feeling, which one, they just say I'm upset. Because again, as I mentioned earlier, upset covers everything. So they'd say I'm upset. And then about what? Step 2 is about what? And the about what part was really interesting because they wouldn't say, I'm upset that you're such an idiot. They wouldn't do that. They wouldn't go blaming, right? They would say something that was, again, more factual. They talk about the facts. I'm upset that the garbage hasn't been taken out. I'm angry that there's a new dent in the car. I'm furious. So they could be angry. Anger was okay. I'm furious that the bills haven't been paid. Okay? So they were not describing their partner. They were describing themselves and then describing the situation that they were upset about. That was the trick. And finally, the third step is that they would say what they needed. How could their partner make it better? How could their partner shine for them? So they said what they needed. I need you to take out the garbage. I need you to drive more carefully so our car will be protected. So they would say what they needed. And I know that that's something that's really, really hard for us, especially in this culture. Because after all, we're all individuals. We're all self-sufficient. We don't need anybody from any, nothing. We need nothing, right? Ha, ha, ha. We are all pack animals as little human beings. And we do need each other. That's the reality.
So, just a little pointer here. Just know this is healthy communicating when we find ourselves needing to defend, is that we are clear with what we are feeling, what we're needing, and we talk about the facts and not criticizing other people. So if I say, I'm really upset that the bills aren't paid and I would like you to pay the bills, it doesn't mean the person is going to respond even though you're calm and peaceful. So then you get to practice it again. And then you get to choose again. How can I meet that need? Rather than, expecting someone who is just not able to do it. It's what I call do not go to the bakery expecting to buy hardware. If we go to those same people that just aren't present, then we need to try to meet our needs in another way. So just real briefly, how do we dissolve defensiveness when it comes? Again, notice its presence. If I am blaming and criticizing, know that it leads to more hurt. Know the truth about you and the truth about the other person, that it's more than the situation and what they are doing or not doing and what you are doing or not. Notice when resistance comes up if we cannot see more than one point of view, or we are feeling that tit for tat. And so we ground ourselves either through touching ourselves, taking deep breaths, and then we identify what it is that we're feeling, and we speak from the I, both the feeling and the need, and you are seeking to understand your part, right? Because a lot of times we don't want to know our part. Even if it's just, you might have that right, and somebody said they were going to do something and they didn't do it, and 3 times you asked them, they didn't do it, and you're finding yourself getting more angry. Then we can feel righteous that I could just go off and shout and like, what's wrong with you? And you didn't do this and blah, 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 blah. Yes, but I am responsible about me and how I am showing up. And that takes me from my peace. So then I need to go and clean that up. So as we take a deep breath, right, we are reminded that if we are engaging in any of the winds of conflict, be it separation, misperception, competition, or defensiveness, we are not in the center of our being and we can never experience peace. And so I close with the words of Eckhart Tolle and Eric Butterworth. First, you find peace not by rearranging the circumstances of your life, but by relaxing and realizing who you are at the deepest level. I give you the peace that passes all understanding. Out of this will dawn the awareness that the world peace begins within me. Within this universal discovery, war, and I added those 4 winds because that's the outpicturing of war, Separation, misperception, competition, defensiveness will fade from the memory of humankind, and people will get on with the business of living and loving and growing. So peace be with you, peace within you, and peace all around you. Namaste.